Hey dads, this is something I call the damn money rule. Now, if your kids are listening, remember explain it DAM, the thing that holds water for like farmers, not you know. Now, I know this is a little bit unorthodox combining farming with finance, but I grew up on an Idaho potato farm, so bear with me. Now, for those of you who need a simple definition of what a dam is, it's something that holds water for when you need to use it later. And so often what will happen is there's a lot of snow during the wintertime in the mountains, and as that melts and has a runoff, it will go into the dam, and the dam is then holding that water until we need it later in the year. This often happens around June, July, August, that part of time where we'll often run out of water from canals and stuff, or we just need it as a constant reserve. And it comes in and it makes it so we make sure we have enough for that year. Now, this applies very directly with money, and I will explain how it does that exactly here in the next few minutes. Now, exactly how this applies to money is if you have more money coming in than you have coming out, that is a good thing. That means you're going to have a lot of reserves for anything that you have for your emergency fund, any kind of expenses you may have coming along, and especially for saving and investing for your distant future. Now, the big thing about this is if you run out of money coming in, you're going to suffer. And it's the same thing with crops. If you run out of water coming into your crops, they are going to suffer. Now, the big thing to remember is if you have more going out than coming in, it isn't that you have a money problem, it's you have a flow problem. And that is something that we're going to address today. Now, let's talk about saving $10,000. The very first thing you have to figure out, well, how long is it going to take me to make this $10,000 and when do I want it to come in? And don't focus on what you currently have in your budget and how you're going to make things work in the future, but rather make the future work for you. And so, say if I want to have $10,000 starting at zero today, and I want $10,000 in the future, I have to say when exactly that is. And I'm going to say 10 months just for easy math. So, if I have 10 months and I have $10,000 I want saved in that, I'm going to have to save around $1,000 each month. And that is how you're going to start with everything. Is if you have a certain goal in mind, you got to take it by what that money goal is and divide it by the time span you are going to accomplish it in. Because the thing is, most people don't ever expressly say what the target is. They say, oh, I just need to save more money, or oh, I just need to work a little bit harder, or something like that. But they don't actually have a target. And it is extremely hard to hit a target if you have no idea where the target is at. And so you need to be able to define where your target is, and not just like a general idea, but actually pinpoint where exactly the bullseye is for yourself. Then you could actually maybe take out your bow, your gun, whatever you have, aim it, fire, you're going to get your goal. Now, the biggest thing about this is that savings, it's not random. It's not something that you do at the end of the month and it's going to work for you, but it is planned and intentional. You don't rise to your financial goals, you fall to your systems. Now, here's the core principle that I want to emphasize is you have to pay yourself first. Now, I'll explain what exactly I mean by that, but what a lot of people do is the first of the month comes around and they're going to get a whole stack of bills or different things that they need to do. They need to first pay over their rent or their mortgage. They need to do any kind of taxes that come in. They may also need to do their car bill or their utilities. And then you have groceries and all these different kind of things, just a whole lot of bills and just normal day-to-day necessities. Mind you, I'm not talking about like the extra stuff that you don't actually need. I'm talking about necessities that you need to live, groceries and housing and transportation, things that you need. People will pay all this stuff first, which isn't a bad thing. It's what 99% of people do, but they'll pay all this kind of stuff first. But then it gets towards the end of the month and they don't have anything left to actually put into their savings or their investments. And so that's where we need to kind of flip this entire situation where you need to pay yourself first. Treat yourself like a bill or like one of those money lenders or whatever kind of situation you're having on. You need to prioritize your future self more than your current obligations that you have. Now, I'm not saying like you should be horrible with money or stuff like that. You should definitely fulfill all your obligations, but you need to prioritize yourself above anybody else. Because if you don't do that, you're going to be stuck in this situation for the rest of your life. I don't mean that in a negative thing. I'm just speaking from experience. Now, this applies more not to just how you physically do things. If you pay yourself first, that's not just a physical thing you do. It's also going to change your mindset. Your mindset is going to change in the way that if you are showing yourself in the physical world that you are prioritizing your things first above other people, it's going to change everything that you have going on for yourself. And not just for money, but also if your job, your business, whatever you have going with your family, especially, you need to prioritize yourself first. And it's going to change a whole lot more things than just your finances, which I hope to accomplish so you could become a better dad. Okay, now we need to do a little bit of a reality check, and that is especially what our needs and what our wants. I'm not going to tell you to cut out everything because that is bullcrap, but a lot of people do struggle with this simple kind of concept. So we're going to go over it just in case you haven't heard it. Okay, I have actually known a lot of people who are making multiple six figures, but are still broke. Now that make you kind of reel back and be like, whoa, how does that actually happen? If they're making so much freaking money, how can they still be broke? And that comes back to the damn money rule. They are spending money as fast as it is coming in. And so that doesn't matter where you are in life. If you have a low income or if you have a high income, it all depends on how much you are having flowing through you. If you're building up your money dam, or if you're just letting things flow out and you never have anything reserved for your future. And so keep in mind, what are actually things that you need? You don't necessarily need a huge house if you can get by with a smaller one. You don't need a brand new 2027 or 2026 car. I don't know what models are out right now, but you don't need that fancy car for your ego or whatever it is. You could get by with one that was made in late 90s, early 2000s. It's going to be just fine. Just take care of it. And especially speaking to dads out there, I know you want to give everything to your family. And that is part of what this whole channel is dedicated to, is making sure that we can take care of our families. But you got to make sure that you're taking care of them in the long term, in a few years from now and beyond that, and not just today. So figure out what are actually your needs and what are actually your wants, and combining those two. Again, I'm not going to tell you exactly what to do, but figure out what you kind of need to reassess. And this is something that I constantly have to do myself. I'm not perfect at this. No one is perfect at this. Just kind of having to go back and reassess every couple months or however often, maybe once a week if you have a budgeting meeting with your wife, but go back and assess what are actually our needs and what are actually our wants. Again, this is all after you have paid yourself first. Again, this is coming back to the concept that no matter how much your money you're making, it's not a money problem you have, it's a lifestyle problem you have, and where your priorities lie. If it's just yourself today, very short-minded, or if it's dedicated to your future and your family's future. Of course, this is not something that I could say is going to match for everybody. And this is something to keep in mind. If there's a guru out there who's saying, oh, there's this one specific plan that every person should follow and they're going to be amazing, as absolute bull crap, because of the variety of humans out there. Those people are saying that there's only one single rule to follow. And I know I kind of break that rule with this video where I'm saying the damn money rule, but I'm trying to take a broader perspective here where I'm going to teach you the right principles, and then you will govern yourself with what you have learned. So don't listen to people that say you should do exactly this kind of thing. Just follow what the general idea of stuff is. Now, I'm going to make this a little bit more tangible, and this is specifically about my great-grandparents. They lived very simple lives, and I would just see them every once in a while when my family would go up and see them, and always had a really good time with them. I really got into reading books, and my grandma was also someone who also loved reading books, and so we would just exchange different things that we liked reading a lot. And the thing was, they just passed away recently, and it was good for them to go. Like, I'm not saying that I wasn't sad or anything, but they lived really good lives, and they left a good legacy for their families. The thing is that I didn't realize is that they actually had quite a bit of wealth left over. And I had no idea. And I was their great grandson. And so you'd think, like, there's someone has, I'm not saying rich, but wealthy people who were able to build a good life for themselves. You'd think that people would just know that by looking at them. But I had no idea that they left so much for their family. And the main thing about this is they were humble. They weren't focusing on like, oh, what is the most amount of stuff we could get in this life, or what is the biggest house we could buy, or what are these ostentatious things. It was more focused on what do we actually need and what is going to be best for our families. And that quiet wealth that they have is so much more stronger and more important than any kind of loud spending can ever be. Now, all of this comes back to my own personal situation where I was the first child of some parents, and nothing against them, but they really did not know a lot about how money works. And that kind of left me in the situation of what am I supposed to do? There's so much generic advice, but no real guidance out there. Is how am I going to be able to find something that's actually designed for me and my family? And that's kind of what started my whole journey for where I'm doing now of helping other dads. If you are actually interested in a personal financial needs analysis for your family, there's a link in the description that you could be able to access to where you could be able to sit down with either me or one of my partners and we'll walk you through a full financial needs analysis of not only like what are your goals and dreams, but actually how to get there and where you're at currently. So if you're interested in that, the link is down in the description, or you could also find it in my channel. Also, if you do like this stuff, subscribe, but all that later. Now, back to the whole damn rule. Sometimes you can't just reduce your output anymore. People can do everything that they possibly can, especially as fathers. I understand that you have to pay for some things, and just at one point, you really can't constrain the budget anymore. And that's when you have to come to, well, if you can't stop how much water you have to spend out, if you can't stop how much money that you're having to spend, what you have to do is put more water in or have more money coming in. This is where I then suggest doing a side hustle or starting your own business. Now, keep in mind, that is the hardest way to make money. It is so much easier to go and work for somebody else and they take care of everything and you just get a paycheck, call it good, come home, and you can just focus and relax. Whereas starting a business is literally the hardest way to make money, but its long-term effects are going to be so much more. Even if it takes years of failures, it's going to be so much more beneficial for you and your family in the long run by starting a business. Now, it's not for everybody, but just throwing out there, I am also looking for new partners all the time. So if that is something you're also interested, feel free to reach out. What I do want to emphasize though is that at some point you can't just keep hustling, or you can't keep constraining your budget. You can't keep spending less. At some point, you're going to have to increase what you're putting into it. Thus, coming back to the damn money rule, you have to have more coming in than you have going out. Now, all this is good information and everything, but you have to actually start applying this. You could listen to these kind of things all day long, and it's great and everything, but until you actually sit down with your wife and actually make a plan for how you're going to be able to save that $10,000 over what amount of time, and by paying yourself first, applying the damn rule, you're going to be able to make it so you will be able to save that 10 grand for an emergency fund or just really starting your life in whatever kind of situation you're in. But this is coming from one dad who's been there, and I just really want to go out there and help others as well. Again, if you want help building your own plan, just book a call in the description and get your free customized financial needs analysis. But also subscribe to the channel, like this video if you like it. There's a handy dandy button that looks like this. Just got to tap on it and it'll actually says, oh, you'll like this kind of stuff. It'll show you more of that in the YouTube algorithm. And if you want to see more of my stuff, just go ahead and go to the channel. Go ahead and browse and just enjoy things to your heart's content. Just wrapping it up. You got this, Dad.